I won't stop until I have an heir.
His hand pinned hers to the wall before she could breathe. Makina's pulse hammered against her throat as Silas Whitlock leaned in close. Too close. His cologne burned her lungs. His breath grazed her cheek. The damask wallpaper pressed cold against her palm. "You think I don't see you?" he whispered. She didn't answer. Couldn't. The hallway felt like it was shrinking. Silas's eyes searched her face, sharp, hungry, desperate. "Every maid in this house looks down when I walk by. Every single one." His voice dropped lower. "Except you." Makina kept her breathing steady, kept her face calm. Armor made of stillness. "I need to know," Silas said, jaw tight. "Who sent you? If you've ever stood in a room where the wrong answer could destroy you, you know what silence feels like. Heavy, crushing, survival disguised as obedience. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. 2 hours earlier, the boardroom had been full of men in expensive suits. Silas stood at the head of the table, fists slamming down so hard the chandelier shook. "I won't stop," he roared, "until I have an heir." No one argued. No one moved. Power had a way of turning grown men into children. Makina had been standing by the door with a silver tray. Invisible, a shadow in a black and white uniform. That's what maids were supposed to be. Furniture that cleaned and disappeared. But Silas noticed her. He always noticed her. "I didn't build Whitlock Holdings to watch it die with me," Silas snapped. His voice cracked with something close to panic. "I need blood. I need legacy." The lawyers nodded like puppets. The advisors scribbled notes they'd never read. And Makina stood perfectly still, counting exits in her head. In her apron pocket, a flash drive pressed against her ribs like a second heartbeat. 3 weeks. She'd been in this mansion for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of listening. 3 weeks of waiting. 3 weeks of being invisible. Until today. Silas had looked directly at her during the meeting. Not through her. At her. And something in his eyes had shifted. Suspicion. Curiosity. Hunger. Now, in this hallway with his hand trapping hers against the wall, Makina realized what she'd always known. He was dangerous because he was desperate. "Answer me," Silas said, pressing closer. His other hand hovered near her waist, not touching. Not yet. But the threat was there. The control. Makina lifted her eyes slowly. She'd practiced this. Calm was bait. Calm was survival. "No one sent me, sir," she said softly. "I'm just trying to work." Silas's mouth twitched, not a smile. Something colder. "Liars blink when they lie," he murmured. "You didn't." Her stomach dropped. He leaned in until his lips almost brushed her ear. "That means you're either telling the truth," his voice turned to ice, "or you're the best liar I've ever met." Makina's fingers curled against the wallpaper. She could feel the ridges in the pattern, could feel her own pulse in her fingertips. Silas pulled back just enough to look her in the eyes again. "From today," he said, "you work my floor, my study, my wing. You don't leave unless I say so." It wasn't a request. It was a cage. Makina's voice stayed soft, obedient, safe. "Yes, sir." Silas finally stepped back. His hand slid off the wall. The air rushed back into her lungs. He straightened his tie like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just cornered her in a hallway with nowhere to run. "Miles," he called. A tall man appeared instantly, head of security. Stone-faced, cold eyes. Silas pointed at Makina without looking at her. "Run her background again. Right now." Miles's gaze sharpened. "Already did, sir." Silas turned slowly. "And?" Miles hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. "Her records start 5 years ago," Miles said carefully. "Before that, nothing. No school. No medical. No landlord history. He paused, like she appeared out of nowhere. Silas's jaw clenched, his eyes locked on McKenna again. And this time they didn't look curious. They looked like a man who'd just found prey. McKenna didn't sleep that night. She lay on the narrow bed in the servants' quarters, staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment Silas's hand had trapped hers against the wall, the way his voice had turned sharp, the way Miles had said her records didn't exist. She'd been careful, so careful. But careful wasn't enough in a house built on secrets. At 6 a.m., she dressed in her uniform and walked through the marble hallways like she belonged there, like she wasn't falling apart inside. The mansion was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that made footsteps sound like confessions. She reached the third floor and knocked on the study door. "Come in," Silas called. McKenna entered with a tray of tea. Silas sat behind his desk, papers spread out in front of him. He didn't look up, didn't acknowledge her. For a moment she thought maybe yesterday had been a test. Maybe he'd moved on. Then he spoke without lifting his eyes. "Close the door." McKenna's fingers tightened on the tray. She set it down gently and turned to obey. The lock clicked behind her. Silas finally looked up. His face was unreadable, calm, but his eyes weren't. They were sharp, searching, like he was trying to peel her apart, layer by layer. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. McKenna hesitated. Staff didn't sit in front of the boss, not unless something was very wrong. "I said sit." She sat. Silas leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled under his chin. He studied her the way a scientist studies something under glass. "You've been here 3 weeks," he said slowly. "And I don't know a single thing about you." "There's nothing to know, sir." His mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "That's what makes you interesting." McKenna kept her hands folded in her lap, kept her breathing steady, but her pulse was hammering so loud she swore he could hear it. Silas reached for a folder on his desk and flipped it open. "McKenna Crowell," he read aloud. 26, no family listed, no emergency contact, hired through an agency that doesn't answer its phone anymore. He looked up. "Convenient." "I'm just trying to work," McKenna said quietly. "Everyone says that," Silas replied, "right before they ask for something." He closed the folder and tossed it aside. Then he leaned forward, elbows on the desk, eyes locked on hers. "So, let me ask you directly. What do you want?" The question hung in the air like a blade. If McKenna said nothing, he wouldn't believe her. If she said money, he'd think she was easy to control. If she said anything else, he'd know she was lying. So she told him a truth that was almost real. "I want to survive." Silas's eyes flickered. Something shifted in his expression. Not softness, but recognition. "Survive," he repeated. "That's honest." He stood and walked around the desk slowly. McKenna forced herself not to move, not to flinch. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. "Where are you from?" he asked. "Savannah." The word hit him like a bullet. Silas's jaw clenched, his hands curled into fists at his sides. For a second, he looked like a man drowning. "Savannah," he whispered. McKenna watched his face carefully. Whatever Savannah meant to him, it wasn't good. It was a wound, an old one, the kind that never healed right. Have you ever said something that broke someone without meaning to? That's what this felt like. Silas turned away from her and walked to the window. His shoulders were tight, his breathing uneven. "My mother was from Savannah," he said, voice flat. "She died when I was 12. McKenna's chest tightened. She hadn't known that, hadn't planned for it. Silas kept staring out the window like he was looking at ghosts. She used to say people from Savannah had fire in them. Strength. Stubbornness. He glanced back at McKenna. "Is that true?" I don't know, sir. Liar, he said softly, but there was no anger in it, just exhaustion. He crossed the room again and crouched down in front of her chair. Eye level now, too close. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. Tell me the truth, Makina. Did someone send you here to hurt me? Her breath caught. No. Then why, he said slowly, does looking at you feel like looking at a ghost? Makina didn't have an answer, couldn't have one, because the truth was buried too deep, and if she dug it up now, they'd both burn. Silas stood abruptly and walked back to his desk. He picked up his phone and dialed. Miles, he said, bring me everything you have on Savannah. Every business deal, every contract, every name from 15 years ago. He hung up and looked at Makina one last time. You're not leaving this house until I know who you really are. Miles arrived in 10 minutes with a tablet and a face like stone. Makina stood by the window while Silas scrolled through files, his jaw getting tighter with every swipe. The silence in the study wasn't peaceful. It was the kind that came before something shattered. Her social security number, Miles said, pointing at the screen, was issued 5 years ago. Clean. Perfect. Too perfect. Silas looked up. Meaning? Meaning someone made her, Miles replied. Built her from scratch. No childhood records, no school transcripts, no hospital visits, nothing before 21. Makina felt her stomach drop, but kept her face blank. Calm was survival. Panic was death. Silas's eyes cut to her like knives. You want to explain that? I grew up in foster care, Makina said evenly. Records get lost. Mixed up. It happens. Miles shook his head. Not like this. I've seen messy files. This isn't messy. This is erased. Silas stood slowly, the kind of slow that meant he was deciding something. Something bad. He crossed the room until he was inches from Makina, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his eyes. I think, he said softly, you're here for a reason? And I think you're lying about what it is. Makina forced herself to hold his stare. I'm not lying. Then prove it, Silas whispered. Tell me something real, something that hurts. The request caught her off guard. Not a demand, not a threat, a test. Makina's throat tightened. She thought about the nights in foster homes where no one remembered her name, the caseworkers who shuffled her like paperwork, the moment she realized no one was coming to save her. I don't have anyone, she said quietly. No family, no friends. I've been alone since I was 8. It was true. Every word, and it hurt to say out loud. Silas's expression flickered, just for a second, something almost like understanding. Then it was gone. Miles, Silas said without looking away from Makina. I want cameras in her room. I want her schedule tracked. I want to know every breath she takes. Makina's pulse spiked. Sir, you're not staff anymore. Silas cut her off. You're a security risk, and security risks don't get privacy. Miles hesitated. That's extreme. Silas turned on him fast. Extreme is having a ghost working in my house. Extreme is not knowing if she's here to steal from me or worse. His voice dropped. Do it, now. Miles looked at Makina one last time, something close to pity in his eyes, then left without another word. The door clicked shut, and then the lock turned. Makina's breath stopped. She glanced at the door, then back at Silas. Why did you lock it? She asked. Silas leaned against his desk, arms crossed, watching her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Because I don't trust you, and I don't let things I don't trust walk away. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air heavier. You're not a prisoner, Silas continued, but you're not free either. Not until I know what you are. Makina's mind raced. She could fight. She could scream. But neither would help. Not in a house where Silas controlled every door, every camera, every exit. So she did the only thing she could. She stayed calm. "What do you want from me?" she asked. Silas tilted his head, studying her. "Honesty. I've been honest." "No," he said. "You've been careful. There's a difference." He pushed off the desk and walked toward her again, slow and deliberate. Predator circling prey. He stopped close enough that she could feel the heat coming off him. "I'm going to find out who you are," Silas said, "with or without your help. And when I do—" He leaned in, voice barely a whisper. "You better hope I like what I find." McKenna's heart pounded so hard it hurt, but she didn't break, didn't look away. "And if you don't?" she asked. Silas smiled. It was the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes, the kind that promised consequences. "Then you'll wish you'd never walked through my door." He reached past her and unlocked the door with a soft click. "You can go," he said. "For now." McKenna walked out on legs that barely held her. She made it to the hallway before her hands started shaking. Behind her, she heard Silas pick up his phone. "Miles," he said, "I want a full background on every agency that placed staff in the last year. And I want to know who recommended her." McKenna kept walking, kept breathing, kept counting steps until she reached the servants' staircase. Then she pulled out the burner phone hidden in her apron and typed one message. "He knows something's wrong. What do I do?" The reply came in seconds. "Stay. If you run, you confirm his suspicions. Make him trust you." McKenna stared at the screen, pulse hammering. Then a second message appeared. "And McKenna, be careful. Silas Whitlock doesn't let go of things he wants to control." She deleted the messages and slid the phone back into her pocket. But when she looked up, Miles was standing at the top of the stairs, watching her. Miles didn't say a word. He just gestured toward the security office with his head. McKenna's stomach twisted, but she followed. What choice did she have? Running would prove everything Silas suspected. Staying meant walking into a trap. The security room smelled like coffee and metal. Monitors lined the walls, each one showing a different angle of the mansion. Hallways, kitchens, bedrooms. Every corner of the house under watch. Miles closed the door behind them. Not locked, but the message was clear. "You're not leaving until I say so." He leaned against the desk, arms crossed. "How long were you standing there?" "I just got there," McKenna said. "Before or after you pulled out your phone?" Her blood went cold. He'd seen. Miles's face stayed blank, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. "I've been doing this job for 12 years, he said. "I know what guilt looks like. I know what fear looks like." He paused. "And I know what mission looks like." McKenna forced her voice steady. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." Miles pushed off the desk and took a step closer. "You're too calm for someone in your position. Too prepared. Normal people panic when their boss suspects them. You didn't." "Maybe I've had practice staying calm." "Maybe," Miles said, "or maybe you were trained to." The air between them felt electric, dangerous. McKenna's mind raced through her options. Deny everything. Keep lying until he gave up. But Miles wasn't the type to give up. She could see it in his stance, in the way he watched her like he was waiting for a crack. So she gave him a truth, a small one. "I needed this job. If Silas fires me, I have nowhere to go." Miles studied her for a long moment. Then he sighed and rubbed a hand over his face. "I don't want to hurt you, McKenna, but my job is to protect him, even from people who look innocent." There was something in his voice, something almost like regret. Have you ever had to choose between doing what's right and doing what you're told? That's the look Miles had, like he was carrying a choice that weighed too much. "Then ask me what you really want to ask," McKenna said. Miles's jaw tightened. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a photo. He set it on the desk between them. McKenna's breath caught. It was a young man standing beside a workbench, tools spread out, grease on his hands, a patent form on the table in front of him, and at the bottom of the form, a name printed in bold letters. Elias Crowell, her father. That man, Miles said quietly, died broke after Whitlock's first major deal went through. His patent was supposed to make him a millionaire. Instead, it made Silas's father one. McKenna's throat burned. She forced herself not to react, not to cry, not to scream. Miles tapped the photo. And that man is listed as your emergency contact on an old intake file from the agency. The room tilted. McKenna opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Miles leaned in, voice low. So, I'll ask you one more time. Who sent you here? Before McKenna could answer, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Miles's eyes flicked down. Take it out. Slowly. McKenna pulled the phone out with shaking hands. The screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. Stay calm. Do not confirm anything. Miles is testing you. Miles's eyes narrowed. Who's that? I don't know, McKenna whispered. And it was true. She didn't recognize the number. Miles grabbed the phone from her hand and read the message. His face went hard. Someone's watching you. I didn't ask them to. That doesn't matter. Miles deleted the message and handed the phone back. Whoever sent that knows you're in this room. Right now, which means they're either in this house or they have access to our systems. McKenna's pulse hammered. What are you going to tell Silas? Miles stared at her for a long time. Too long. Then he did something she didn't expect. He sat down. My sister used to work for one of Silas's partners, he said quietly. She found something she wasn't supposed to find. Financial records. Payments that didn't make sense. She threatened to go public. McKenna's chest tightened. What happened? Miles's voice cracked. She disappeared. No body, no charges, just gone. He looked up at McKenna, eyes red. I told myself it was an accident, that she ran away, but I knew. I've always known. The weight of his confession settled between them like a stone. I stayed because I needed the money, Miles continued, because I told myself I could protect people from the inside. But all I've done is watch. He stood up, voice shaking. So if you're here to hurt him, I need to know. Because I can't let someone else disappear. McKenna's throat burned. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm here to find the truth. Truth about what? About what happened to my father. Miles went still. Elias Crowell was your father. McKenna nodded. And Silas's family buried him. For a moment, neither of them moved. The room was silent except for the hum of the monitors. Then Miles's phone rang. He answered. Listened. His face went pale. Yes, sir. Right away. He hung up and looked at McKenna. Silas wants to see you. Now. In his private study. McKenna's stomach dropped. Why? Miles's voice was barely a whisper. Because he just found the contract your father signed 20 years ago. And your name is on it. The contract sat on the table between them like a bomb. McKenna stared at it. Her name. Her father's signature. A date from before she was born. The paper was yellowed with age, but the words were clear. Too clear. Silas sat across from her at a private dining table in his study. Candles flickered. Wine glasses stood untouched. This wasn't a meeting. It was a stage. Eat, Silas said, cutting into his steak. McKenna's stomach was twisted too tight to hold food. I'm not hungry. I didn't ask if you were hungry. I told you to eat. She picked up her fork with shaking hands. The silence between them was suffocating. Silas watched her like a scientist watching a reaction. Your father signed that contract when you were 2 years old, he said. He promised his invention to my father. In return, he'd get 30% of the profits. McKenna's throat burned. He never saw a cent. No, Silas agreed. He didn't. Why? Silas set down his knife. Because my father added a clause, a small one, easy to miss if you weren't paying attention. He tapped the contract. It said if Elias couldn't prove sole ownership of the patent, the deal was void. McKenna's pulse spiked. He owned it. He did, Silas said. But my father found a loophole. A co-inventor listed on an early prototype. Someone Elias had worked with years before. My father bought that man's silence. Then he took everything. The words hit McKenna like a fist. Her father hadn't just lost. He'd been erased. "And you knew," she whispered. Silas leaned back in his chair. "I was 12 when my father told me. He said business was war. That mercy was weakness." His voice dropped. I believed him. McKenna's hands curled into fists under the table. "So why tell me now?" Silas stood and walked around the table slowly. He stopped behind her chair, close enough that she could feel him breathing. "Because I need something from you," he said. McKenna's heart pounded. "What?" "An heir." The room went silent. Even the candles seemed to stop flickering. McKenna turned in her chair to look at him. "You're insane." Silas didn't flinch. "I'm desperate. There's a difference." He moved to the front of her chair and crouched down so they were eye level. His voice softened. Almost gentle, almost human. "I'm dying, McKenna." Her breath caught. "Not today. Not tomorrow. But soon." Silas's eyes were tired, hollow. "I have maybe 2 years, 3 if I'm lucky, and I have no one. No wife, no children, no legacy." McKenna's chest tightened. She wanted to hate him, wanted to scream, but the brokenness in his voice made it harder. "I'll give you everything," Silas continued. "Money, security, a life you've never had. All I need is a child, someone to carry my name when I'm gone." McKenna's mind flashed back to a memory she'd buried deep. She was 9 years old, sitting in a social worker's office. A woman with kind eyes and a fake smile. "We found you a family, McKenna. They're going to take care of you." But they didn't. They took the state checks and forgot her name. And when she cried, they told her to be grateful. To stop asking for things she didn't deserve. That's what promises sounded like. Sweet at first. Poison later. "You're asking me to sell myself," McKenna said. Silas's jaw tightened. "I'm asking you to survive, just like you've been doing your whole life." He stood and pulled a pen from his jacket. He set it on the table next to the contract. "Sign it," he said, "or leave this house tonight with nothing." McKenna stared at the pen, at the contract, at the man who held all the power. She thought about her father, about the way he'd smiled when he sketched inventions on cardboard, about the way he'd promised her the world, and then she thought about the way the world had taken him instead. "What happens if I say no?" she asked. Silas's expression went cold. "Then I'll make sure no one ever hires you again. I'll make sure every door closes, every chance disappears." He leaned in close. "I'll erase you, just like my father erased him." McKenna's hands trembled. She wanted to run, wanted to scream, wanted to fight, but she'd learned a long time ago that fighting didn't save you, surviving did. She reached for the pen. Silas's eyes flashed with something close to relief, but before she could sign, the door to the study clicked. Locked, from the outside. Silas spun toward the door, face pale. "What the hell?" The lights went out, and in the darkness, McKenna heard a voice. Calm, cold, familiar. "Step away from her, Silas, or I'll make sure you don't live 2 years. You won't live 2 minutes." The lights came back on. The room was empty. Just McKenna and Silas. No one at the door, No one in the shadows, but the voice had been real. Too real. Silas's face was white. His hands shook as he tried the door. Locked tight. He slammed his fist against it. "Miles, open this door." No answer. McKenna's heart hammered. Whoever had spoken knew where they were, knew what was happening, and they'd cut the power like it was nothing. Silas spun toward her, eyes wild. "Who was that?" "I don't know." "Liar!" He grabbed her arm, not rough, but desperate. "Someone's helping you. Tell me who." McKenna yanked her arm free. "I don't know who that was." Silas stared at her like he was trying to crack her open. Then the door unlocked. Miles burst in, gun drawn, 2 guards behind him. "Are you okay?" Miles asked. Silas's jaw clenched. "Someone locked us in. Someone inside this house." Miles scanned the hallway. Cameras went dark for 30 seconds. By the time they came back, whoever did it was gone. Silas's face turned red. "Then find them. Search every room. Check every staff member. I want answers. Now." Miles nodded and left with the guards. Silas turned back to McKenna, breathing hard. "Get out. Go to your room. Don't leave until I say so." McKenna didn't need to be told twice. She walked out fast, legs shaking, mind racing. Whoever had spoken had saved her. But why? And how did they get inside? She reached the servants' quarters and locked herself in her small room. Her hands were still trembling. She sat on the bed and pulled out the burner phone from under her mattress. 1 ring, 2. A woman answered. No greeting, just report. Someone intervened, McKenna whispered. Cut the power, spoke through the dark. Silas almost made me sign a contract. Silence on the other end. Then, we didn't send anyone. McKenna's blood went cold. Then who was it? Unknown. But it confirms what we suspected. You're not the only one watching Silas Whitlock. McKenna's throat tightened. He found the original contract. The one my father signed. My name is on it. The handler's voice sharpened. That's not possible. Elias never listed you as a beneficiary. He did. I saw it. A pause. Then the woman said something that made McKenna's world tilt. McKenna, your father's name appeared in Whitlock's early filings. But it wasn't just patents. There were medical records, transfers, payments to a private facility outside Charleston. McKenna's chest went tight. What kind of facility? The kind that keeps people quiet. The kind with no visitor logs, no discharge dates. The handler's voice dropped. McKenna, are you sure your father is dead? The question hung in the air like smoke. McKenna's hands went numb. They told me he died. The state, the caseworkers, everyone. They told you what someone wanted you to believe. McKenna's vision blurred. She'd spent 18 years believing her father was gone. 18 years mourning a ghost. And now this woman was saying he might be alive? Where is he? McKenna's voice cracked. We don't know yet. But if he's in that facility, he's being held for a reason. And Silas might be the only one who knows why. McKenna stood, pacing the tiny room. Her mind spun. If her father was alive, then everything she'd believed was a lie. Everything she'd grieved was stolen. What do I do? She whispered. Stay close to Silas. Make him trust you. If he's hiding your father, he'll slip, and when he does, we'll have him. McKenna's throat burned. And if he doesn't slip? The handler's voice went cold. Then you'll have to make him. The line went dead. McKenna stared at the phone, chest heaving. Her father, alive, maybe. The possibility felt like a knife in her ribs. She slid the phone back under the mattress and sat on the edge of the bed, trying to breathe, trying to think. A soft knock at the door made her freeze. McKenna, a voice called. Female. Quiet. McKenna stood slowly and opened the door a crack. An older woman stood in the hallway. Silver hair pulled back. Kind eyes. McKenna recognized her as Greta, the estate manager. She'd been polite but distant since McKenna arrived. "Can I help you?" McKenna asked. Greta glanced down the hallway, then back at McKenna. "We need to talk, somewhere private." "This is private." Greta shook her head. "Not here. The walls have ears." She paused. "Literally." McKenna's pulse spiked. "What do you mean?" Greta stepped closer, voice barely a whisper. "Silas installed microphones in every servant's room 3 months ago. He's listening to everything." McKenna's stomach dropped. "Why are you telling me this?" Greta's expression softened, sad, almost guilty. "Because I knew your father, and I know what they did to him." McKenna's breath stopped. "You knew him?" Greta nodded. "I worked for the Whitlock family 20 years ago. I was there the day they made Elias disappear." Her voice cracked. "And I've been waiting for someone to come looking." McKenna's heart pounded so hard it hurt. "Where is he?" Greta glanced over her shoulder again. Then she leaned in close, lips barely moving. "He's alive. And he's closer than you think." Before McKenna could respond, footsteps echoed down the hall. Greta straightened fast. "I'll find you tomorrow. Laundry room. 6 a.m. Don't be late." She walked away just as Miles appeared at the end of the corridor. He looked at McKenna, then at Greta's retreating figure. His hand moved to his belt, to his gun, and McKenna realized with a sinking feeling that Miles had heard everything. Miles didn't pull the gun, but his hand stayed on it. "My office," he said. "Now." McKenna's heart hammered, but she nodded. Running would only make it worse. She followed him down the hall, past the cameras, past the other staff who pretended not to notice. The security office felt smaller this time. Colder. Miles closed the door and locked it. He didn't sit. Neither did she. He pulled a photo from his jacket and slapped it on the desk. Elias Crowell, younger, smiling, standing beside a workbench covered in tools and blueprints. McKenna's breath hitched, but she forced her face to stay blank. Miles tapped the photo. This man filed a patent in 1998, a power regulation system that became the backbone of Whitlock Holdings. His voice was hard, controlled. 3 months after the patent was transferred, he disappeared. McKenna's throat tightened. "I don't know him." "Yes, you do." Miles pulled out another paper, an old intake form from a foster agency. At the bottom, under emergency contact, one name. Elias Crowell. McKenna's stomach dropped. Miles leaned against the desk, arms crossed. "I ran your file again. Dug deeper this time. Found this buried in an archived system." He stared at her. "So I'll ask you one more time. Who is Elias Crowell to you?" McKenna's hands curled into fists. She could keep lying, but lies had a weight, and Miles looked like a man who'd been carrying too many of them already. "He's my father," she said quietly. Miles's jaw tightened. He didn't look surprised, just tired. "And you're here because of him?" "Yes." "To do what? Hurt Silas? Steal from him? Ruin him?" McKenna shook her head. "To find out what happened. To find out if he's still alive." Miles's eyes flickered. "You think Silas is keeping him somewhere?" "I think someone is." Miles rubbed a hand over his face. For a moment he looked older, worn down. "You know what happens to people who dig into Whitlock business, right? They disappear. Just like your father." "Then why are you still here?" McKenna asked. The question hit him like a punch. Miles went quiet. His hand dropped from his face. "Because I'm a coward," he said finally. "Because I chose a paycheck over my conscience." His voice cracked on the last word. McKenna's chest tightened. She'd expected anger. Threats. Not this. Not honesty. Miles walked to the window and stared out at the mansion grounds. My sister worked for one of Silas's business partners. She found discrepancies in the books, payments that didn't add up. She told me about it, asked me what to do. He paused, swallowed hard. I told her to keep quiet, told her it wasn't worth the risk. His voice dropped to a whisper. 2 weeks later, she was gone. Car found at the bottom of a ravine. They called it an accident. McKenna's throat burned. You think they killed her? Miles turned to face her. His eyes were red. I know they did. And I did nothing. The weight of his guilt filled the room like smoke. Heavy. Suffocating. Have you ever watched someone carry a lie so long it became part of them? That's what Miles looked like. A man buried under his own silence. So why tell me this? McKenna asked. Miles's voice was barely audible. Because I'm tired of watching people disappear. Because maybe if I help you, I can stop being the man who let my sister die. McKenna stared at him. This wasn't a trap. It was a confession. If I help you, Miles continued, and Silas finds out, he'll kill me. Or worse, he'll make me disappear like the others. Then don't help me, McKenna said. I'm not asking you to. Miles laughed bitterly. Yes, you are. You're asking just by being here. He walked back to the desk and picked up the photo of Elias. He stared at it for a long time. Then he set it down and looked at McKenna. Your father didn't just lose his patent, Miles said. He was institutionalized, committed to a private facility by Silas's father. The records are sealed, but I've seen the transfer logs. McKenna's chest went tight. Where is he? I don't know, but I know someone who might. Miles hesitated. Greta Dane, the estate manager. She worked for the Whitlocks back then. She was there when it happened. McKenna's pulse jumped. Greta. The woman who'd warned her about the microphones. She already talked to me, McKenna said. Told me to meet her tomorrow morning. Miles's face went pale. If she's helping you, she's risking everything. Silas has eyes on everyone in this house. Then why would she do it? Miles's voice dropped. Because guilt makes people do dangerous things. Before McKenna could respond, his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his face went white. What is it? McKenna asked. Miles turned the phone toward her. A single message. No name, no number. Stop digging or you'll end up like her. Below the text was a photo. Miles's sister, standing beside a car, smiling, alive. And in the background, barely visible, a man in a suit watching her from across the street. McKenna's blood went cold. Who sent this? Miles's hands shook. I don't know, but whoever it is, they're in this house, right now. A soft knock sounded at the door. They both froze. The knock came again, louder this time. Miles's hand moved to his gun. The door opened, and Silas walked in. Silas's eyes swept the room like a searchlight. He looked at Miles, at the photo on the desk, at McKenna standing too close to his head of security. Am I interrupting something? Silas asked. His voice was calm. Too calm. Miles straightened. No, sir. Just reviewing security protocols. Silas's gaze lingered on him for a beat too long. Then he turned to McKenna. Come with me. It wasn't a request. McKenna followed him out of the office, heart pounding. She could feel Miles watching her leave, could feel the weight of the threat hanging in the air. Silas led her up the grand staircase to his private study, the one with the locked door and the view of the grounds. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. Sit. McKenna sat. Silas poured himself a drink. Whiskey. Neat. He didn't offer her one. He drank slowly, watching her over the rim of the glass. I've been patient with you, he said finally. More patient than I should be. McKenna stayed silent. Silas set the glass down and pulled out a folder. He opened it and slid it across the desk. A contract. Printed on heavy paper. Legal language. Numbers with too many zeros. "This is a formal offer," Silas said. "Exclusive. Private. Binding." McKenna's eyes scanned the first page. Words like surrogate and heir and confidentiality jumped out at her. "You're serious about this," she said. "I've never been more serious about anything in my life." Silas leaned back in his chair. For the first time since McKenna had met him, he looked tired. Not just physically, emotionally. Like the weight of his empire was crushing him from the inside. "I'm 47 years old," he said. "I've built something that will outlast me. But what's the point if there's no one to carry it forward?" McKenna's throat tightened. "You could adopt. Marry. Find someone who actually wants this." Silas shook his head. "I don't want someone who wants this. I want someone who understands survival." His eyes locked on hers. "Someone like you." The word settled between them like a weight. "I don't trust easily," Silas continued. "I don't let people in. But you," he paused, "you don't look at me like I'm a god or a monster. You look at me like I'm just a man." McKenna's chest ached. Because he was right. She'd spent weeks studying him, watching him. And somewhere along the way she'd stopped seeing him as just a target. She'd started seeing him as human, and that made everything harder. "I can't give you what you want," McKenna said quietly. Silas's jaw tightened. "Why not?" "Because I'm not here to build your legacy. I'm here to bury it." The words hung in the air like smoke. Silas stared at her. Not angry, not shocked, just sad. "I know," he said. McKenna's pulse spiked. "What?" Silas stood and walked to the window. "I've known since the day you walked into this house. You think I don't notice when someone's too perfect, too calm, too prepared?" McKenna's hands curled into fists. "Then why didn't you fire me?" "Because I wanted to see what you'd do." He turned to face her. "And because I wanted to know who sent you." McKenna's stomach dropped. Silas crossed the room slowly. He stopped in front of her chair and crouched down. Eye level, just like before. "Tell me the truth," he said softly, "and I'll tell you one in return." McKenna's heart hammered. "What truth?" Silas's voice dropped to a whisper. "About your father, Elias Crowell." The name hit her like a bullet. McKenna's breath stopped, her vision blurred. Everything in her wanted to scream, to cry, to demand answers, but she forced herself to stay still, to stay calm. "How do you know that name?" she asked. Silas's expression was unreadable. "Because my father told me about him before he died, told me what they did." "What he did," his voice cracked, "and he made me promise to never let anyone find out." McKenna's chest tightened. "Find out what?" Silas stood and walked back to his desk. He pulled out another file, older, yellowed. He opened it and turned it toward her. Medical transfer forms, court orders, a photo of a man in a hospital gown, Elias Crowell. Older, thinner, but alive. McKenna's hands shook as she reached for the file. "Where is he?" Silas's voice was barely audible. "In a facility 2 hours from here. Private. No visitors. No records." He paused. "He's been there for 20 years. McKenna's world tilted. 20 years. Her father had been alive this whole time, locked away, forgotten. "Why?" she whispered. Silas's face was pale. "Because my father needed him gone. Because Elias wouldn't stop fighting, wouldn't stop telling people the truth." His voice broke. "So they made him disappear, and I—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "I let it happen." McKenna stared at him, at the guilt written all over his face, at the man who'd kept her father prisoner without ever lifting a finger to free him. "You knew," she said. "You knew he was alive and you did nothing." "I was a child when it started," Silas said. "By the time I understood, it was too late. The system was already built. The lie was already sealed. McKenna stood, legs shaking. Take me to him. Silas shook his head. I can't. If anyone finds out he's alive, it'll destroy everything. The company, the board, my name. I don't care about your name, McKenna said, voice breaking. That's my father. Silas's eyes filled with something close to tears. I know. And I'm sorry. McKenna stepped closer. Sorry doesn't bring him back. Silas's voice was desperate now. Then help me. Sign the contract. Give me an heir. And I'll take you to him. I'll let you see him. The door to the study burst open. Miles stood in the doorway, face pale, gun drawn. Sir, he said, breathless, we have a problem. Someone just breached the facility where Elias is being held. And they're not alone. Silas's face went white. What do you mean, breached? Miles pulled up his phone and turned the screen toward them. Security footage. Grainy. Black and white. 3 figures in dark clothes moving through a hallway. One of them carried a bag. Another held what looked like bolt cutters. This was taken 15 minutes ago, Miles said. They disabled the alarms, cut through 2 locked doors. They knew exactly where to go. McKenna's heart pounded. Someone was going after her father. Right now. Silas grabbed his jacket. Get the car, now. Sir, we should call the police. No police, Silas snapped. If this gets out, if anyone finds out about that facility, I'm finished. Miles hesitated, then nodded. I'll have the car ready in 3 minutes. He left. Silas turned to McKenna. Stay here. Lock the door. Don't leave until I get back. No. McKenna's voice was steady, firm. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. That's my father, McKenna said. If someone's trying to take him, I need to be there. Silas stared at her. For a moment, she thought he'd refuse, thought he'd lock her in the study and leave her behind. Then he nodded once. Fine, but if things go wrong, you do exactly what I say. Understood? McKenna nodded. They moved fast, down the stairs, out the front entrance, into the black SUV idling in the driveway. Miles was behind the wheel. Another guard sat in the passenger seat. Silas climbed into the back. McKenna followed. The car roared to life and tore down the driveway. McKenna's hands shook. She pulled out the burner phone and typed fast. Facility breached. Someone's going after Elias. What do I do? The reply came in seconds. Stay with Silas. We didn't send anyone. This is not us. McKenna's stomach dropped. If the handler didn't send them, then who did? She typed again. Who else knows about him? The response took longer this time. Unknown. But Elias built more than just patents. He built systems, encryption, tech that runs half of Whitlock's infrastructure. If he talks, the empire collapses. McKenna's chest tightened. Her father wasn't just a victim. He was a threat. A living, breathing bomb that could destroy everything Silas had built. Another message came through. McKenna, listen carefully. Your father didn't just lose his work. He hid copies, blueprints, evidence. If someone finds those files before we do, they own the truth. McKenna's pulse raced. Silas, she said. He looked at her. What? My father. Did he ever talk about backups? Hidden files? Silas's jaw tightened. Why? Because someone might be looking for them. Not just him. Silas's face went pale. He pulled out his own phone and dialed fast. Get me the facility director. Now. A pause. Then his expression darkened. What do you mean the line's been cut? McKenna's stomach twisted. Silas hung up and leaned forward. Miles. Faster. The car accelerated. Trees blurred past the windows. McKenna's phone buzzed again. One more thing. Elias's invention wasn't just tech. It was a kill switch, a way to shut down every system Whitlock built. If he activates it, billions disappear overnight. McKenna's hands went numb. Her father wasn't just a prisoner. He was a weapon. She looked at Silas. You didn't just lock him up to silence him. You locked him up because he could destroy you. Silas didn't deny it. My father told me the day I took over. He said Elias was the only man alive who could end us, so we made sure he couldn't. McKenna's voice shook. By keeping him in a cage for 20 years. By keeping him alive, Silas said. If we'd wanted him dead, he'd be dead. The words hit like a slap. Have you ever realized the person you're sitting next to isn't the hero or the villain? Just someone who made a choice they can't undo? That's what Silas looked like. A man drowning in decisions he couldn't take back. The facility came into view. A low building surrounded by fences. No signs, no lights. The gate was open. Miles slowed the car. That's not right. The gate's always locked. Silas leaned forward. Stop the car. They parked 50 feet from the entrance. Silas pulled a gun from the glove box. Miles already had his drawn. Stay in the car, Silas told McKenna. Not a chance. Silas's eyes flashed with anger, then resignation. Fine, but stay behind me. They moved toward the building. The front door was open, hanging off its hinges. Inside, the hallway was dark. Emergency lights flickered. McKenna's heart hammered. She followed Silas and Miles through the corridor, past empty offices, past locked doors. Then they heard it. A voice, weak, hoarse, but unmistakable. McKenna? McKenna froze. Her legs went numb. That voice. She knew that voice. She pushed past Silas and ran toward the sound. McKenna, wait, Silas shouted. She didn't stop. She rounded a corner and there he was. Elias Crowell, sitting on a gurney. Thin, gray, older than the photos, but alive. Tears blurred McKenna's vision. Dad? Elias looked up. His eyes widened. Baby girl? McKenna ran to him and wrapped her arms around him. He smelled like antiseptic and years. Like loss. I thought you were dead, she whispered. I thought you forgot me, he said, voice breaking. Behind them, Silas and Miles entered the room, guns still raised. And then another voice cut through the air, cold, familiar. How touching. McKenna spun around. A woman stepped out of the shadows, silver hair, sharp eyes, Greta. But she wasn't alone. 3 men stood behind her, armed, professional. Greta smiled. Hello, McKenna. We need to talk. Greta's smile didn't reach her eyes. Put the guns down, gentlemen. We're all friends here. Silas didn't move. Neither did Miles. Their weapons stayed raised. I said down, Greta repeated. One of her men stepped forward and pressed a gun to Elias's temple. McKenna's breath stopped. Don't. Then they lower their weapons, Greta said calmly. Silas's jaw clenched. Slowly, he lowered his gun. Miles followed. Greta nodded. Good. Now we can talk like civilized people. McKenna's mind spun. Greta, the kind estate manager who'd warned her about microphones, who'd told her she knew Elias. She'd been playing both sides the whole time. What do you want? Silas asked, voice tight. The same thing you want, Greta replied. Control. Legacy. Power. She looked at McKenna. And the key to all of it is standing right here. McKenna's chest tightened. I don't have anything. Yes, you do. Greta's eyes gleamed. You just don't know it yet. Elias's voice was weak but sharp. Don't listen to her, McKenna. She's lying. Greta laughed. Am I? Tell me, Elias. Did you ever tell your daughter about the locket? McKenna's pulse spiked. The locket. The one she'd kept hidden for years. The one with her father's photo inside. Elias's face went pale. How do you... I've been watching you both for a very long time, Greta said. Longer than you think. She turned to McKenna. Your father gave you that locket when you were 8 years old, right before he disappeared. Do you still have it? McKenna's throat went dry. She thought about the locket tucked in her uniform pocket back at the mansion. She'd carried it every day. Never took it off except to sleep. What does it matter? McKenna asked. Because, Greta said, stepping closer, that locket doesn't just hold a photo. It holds a key. A very specific key. The room went silent. McKenna's mind flashed back. She was 8 years old again. Sitting on the garage floor. Elias was sketching circuits on cardboard, humming under his breath. What are you making, Daddy? She'd asked. Something that'll change everything, he'd said, smiling. Something that'll make sure you're taken care of, no matter what happens to me. He'd pulled out a small brass locket and fastened it around her neck. Keep this safe, baby girl. One day, you'll understand why. She'd opened it later that night. Inside was a photo of them together, and behind the photo, taped carefully, a tiny brass key with numbers etched into the teeth. 3, 1, 7. She'd thought it was sentimental, a father's gift to his daughter, but now standing in this cold room with guns and lies everywhere, she realized it was more than that. What does the key open? McKenna asked. Greta's smile widened. Silas is safe, the one in his private study. Silas's face went white. That's impossible. The combination is 3, 1, 7, Greta finished. The same numbers Elias used for every invention he ever filed. His signature, his legacy. McKenna's stomach twisted. Her father had built a failsafe, a way to access everything Silas had locked away. What's in the safe? McKenna whispered. Everything, Elias said, voice breaking. The original contracts, the blueprints, the evidence that proves the Whitlock stole it all. He looked at her with tears in his eyes. I hid it there 20 years ago. Before they took me. I knew one day you'd find it. McKenna's chest ached. Her father had been planning this since she was a child. He'd given her the key and trusted she'd survive long enough to use it. Greta clapped her hands slowly. Touching. Really? But here's the problem. You don't have the locket with you, which means we need to go back to the mansion. Not happening, Silas said. Greta's smile vanished. Then your legacy dies tonight, along with everyone in this room. One of her men cocked his gun. Miles shifted, ready to move. But Greta was faster. She pulled a remote from her pocket and held it up. This building is wired, she said. One button and we all go up in flames. So here's what's going to happen. We're going back to the mansion. McKenna is going to open that safe, and we're going to take what's inside. And if we refuse? Silas asked. Greta's eyes turned cold. Then I'll make sure Elias doesn't see tomorrow. And McKenna will spend the rest of her life knowing she could have saved him. McKenna's breath caught. She looked at her father, at the man she'd thought was dead for 18 years, at the only family she had left. Fine, McKenna said. I'll do it. McKenna, no, Elias started. I'll do it, she repeated. But you let him go. You let my father walk out of here. Greta tilted her head. I'm not in the business of letting people go, sweetheart. Then we all die here, McKenna said, because I'm not opening that safe unless he's free. The room went silent. Greta studied her, calculating, weighing. Then she smiled. Fine. But he stays with us until the safe is open. Insurance. McKenna's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Greta gestured to her men. Load him in the van. We're leaving. They moved fast. Elias was pulled to his feet. McKenna reached for him, but one of the men pushed her back. Dad! It's okay, baby girl, Elias said. You're stronger than they know. You always have been. They dragged him out. Silas stepped beside McKenna. You realize she's going to kill us all once she gets what she wants. I know, McKenna said. Then why agree? McKenna looked at him. Because I'm done running. I'm done hiding. And I'm done letting people like her decide who lives and who disappears. Silas's expression softened. Just for a second. You sound like him. Your father. Makina's throat burned. Good. Greta appeared in the doorway. Let's go. And Silas? She smiled. If you try anything, I'll put a bullet in Elias's head before you take your next breath. They walked out into the night. The van was waiting. Elias sat in the back, hands zip-tied, face pale. Makina climbed in beside him. Silas and Miles followed. Greta slid into the front seat. Drive. The van lurched forward. Makina reached for her father's hand. He squeezed back, weak but steady. And in that moment, Makina made a decision. She was going to open the safe. She was going to take what was inside. And she was going to burn Greta's plan to the ground. But first she needed to survive the next hour. The van turned onto the highway, and Makina's phone buzzed. One message. No name. We're waiting at the mansion. Get ready. The mansion was too quiet when they arrived. No guards at the gate, no lights in the windows, just silence and shadows. Greta's smile widened. Looks like your security took the night off, Silas. Silas's jaw tightened. Someone disabled them. Smart someone, Greta said. She turned to Makina. Let's go. You have a safe to open. They moved through the front entrance. Elias walked between two of Greta's men, hands still bound. Makina stayed close to him. Silas and Miles trailed behind. The study door was already open. Makina's pulse hammered. She walked to the bookshelf and pulled out the section that hid the safe. The metal door gleamed in the dim light. Go ahead, Greta said. Open it. Makina reached into her pocket and pulled out the locket. Her hand shook as she opened it. The tiny brass key fell into her palm. She looked at her father. He nodded once. Do it. Makina inserted the key into the safe's lock. It fit perfectly. She turned the dial. 3, 1, 7. The safe clicked. The door swung open. Inside was a hard drive, small, black. A label on the front read, EC, Property. Makina's breath caught, her father's initials. Take it out, Greta ordered. Makina pulled the hard drive from the safe. Her hands trembled. Silas stepped closer. What's on it? Everything, Elias said quietly. Every file, every blueprint, every piece of proof that the Whitlock stole from me. Greta's eyes gleamed. Plug it in. I want to see. Makina walked to Silas's desk. She connected the hard drive to his computer. The screen flickered to life. A video player opened automatically, and then her father's face appeared on the screen. But younger. 20 years younger. Sitting in a dim room with a camera pointed at him. Makina's chest tightened. The video Elias leaned forward. His eyes were tired, scared, but determined. If you're watching this, he said, voice shaking, then they already took it. They took my work. They took my name. They took everything. Makina's throat burned. She wanted to reach through the screen and pull him out. Elias held up a contract, the same one Makina had seen weeks ago. This was supposed to be my future. A partnership with Jonathan Whitlock. Fair. Equal. His voice cracked. But he lied. He found a loophole. He brought in lawyers who twisted every word until I had nothing. Greta leaned in, watching intently. Elias continued. I tried to fight. I hired my own lawyers. I went to the press. But money talks louder than truth. He paused. And when I wouldn't stop talking, they made me disappear. Makina's hands curled into fists. They committed me to a facility, Elias said. Told the courts I was unstable, dangerous. They forged documents, paid off doctors, and just like that, I became a ghost. Silas's face was pale. He stared at the screen like he was seeing a ghost himself. Elias leaned closer to the camera. But I'm not just a victim. I built a failsafe, a way to take back what's mine. He held up a small device. This is a kill switch, a code embedded in every system I designed. If activated, it shuts down everything. Every server, every network, every piece of tech the Whitlocks built on my back. Makina's stomach dropped. I gave my daughter the key, Elias said. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted her to have a choice, to decide whether justice is worth the cost. The video paused. Greta's smile was gone. Where's the kill switch? I don't know, McKenna said. Liar. Greta grabbed Elias by the collar. Tell me where it is, or I'll put a bullet in your daughter's head. Elias's eyes filled with tears. I hid it. Years ago. I don't remember where. Greta's finger moved to the trigger. Wait, McKenna shouted. There's more on the drive. Let me check. Greta hesitated, then nodded. You have 60 seconds. McKenna's hands flew over the keyboard. She searched through folders, files, documents, and then she found it. Is a folder labeled, For McKenna. She clicked it open. Inside was another video, shorter, more recent. She hit play. Her father appeared again, but older now, thinner, the same man sitting in the van outside. McKenna, video Elias said, voice soft. If you're watching this, you made it. You found the truth. He smiled through tears. I'm so proud of you. McKenna's vision blurred. The kill switch is real, Elias continued, but it's not a device. It's a code, and I programmed it into the one place they'd never look. He paused. Your DNA. McKenna's breath stopped. I ran tests when you were a baby, Elias explained. Took samples, built a biometric lock tied to your genetic signature. The only way to activate the system is through you. Greta's face went white. That's impossible. It's brilliant, Elias said on screen, because they can't force you, can't trick you, can't steal it. The choice is yours, and only yours. The video ended. The room went silent. Greta stared at McKenna like she was a bomb. You're the key. McKenna's heart pounded. She looked at her father, at Silas, at Miles, and then she heard footsteps behind her. She spun around. Miles stood in the doorway, gun raised, but not at Greta, at Silas. I'm sorry, sir, Miles said, voice shaking, but this ends tonight. Silas's face went pale. Miles, what are you doing? Miles's eyes were red, wet, what I should have done years ago. And then he pulled the trigger. The shot never came. Miles's hand shook. The gun trembled in his grip, but he didn't fire. Silas stared at him, waiting, ready to die. Do it, Silas said quietly. If that's what you came here for, do it. Miles's face crumpled. Tears streamed down his cheeks. I can't. I want to. God, I want to, but I can't. The gun dropped to his side. Greta laughed. Cold, sharp, pathetic. You had one job, Miles, and you couldn't even do that. Miles looked at her, confused. You said you'd help me find out what happened to my sister. You said, I said what you needed to hear. Greta cut him off. Just like I said what McKenna needed to hear. Just like I've been saying what everyone needed to hear for 20 years. McKenna's stomach twisted. You've been manipulating all of us. Greta's smile was ice. Not manipulation, strategy. There's a difference. She gestured to her men. Tie them up, all of them. They moved fast. Zip ties, hands behind backs. McKenna, Silas, Miles, and Elias were shoved into chairs. Greta walked to the desk and ejected the hard drive. She held it up like a trophy. This little thing is worth billions. Every secret, every lie, every piece of evidence that could bury the Whitlocks forever. Then why not just take it and leave? Silas asked. Because it's not enough, Greta replied. She turned to McKenna. I need her. The biometric lock, the kill switch. Without her, this drive is useless. McKenna's chest tightened. I'll never help you. Greta crouched in front of her. You will. Because if you don't, I'll kill your father. Right here. Right now. She pressed a gun to Elias's temple. McKenna's breath stopped. Don't. Then activate the system, Greta said. Shut down the Whitlock empire, and I'll let him live. McKenna's mind raced. If she activated the kill switch, billions would disappear. Companies would collapse. People would lose jobs. Lives would be destroyed. But if she didn't, her father would die. What would you do? Save one person or save thousands? That's the choice McKenna faced, and there was no right answer. There's another option, Elias said, voice steady. Greta turned to him. What? A trust, Elias said. I set one up 20 years ago, before they took me. I transferred ownership of my patents to someone I trusted, someone who could hold them until the right time. Greta's eyes narrowed. Who? Elias's gaze shifted. Not to McKenna, not to Silas, to Greta. You, he said. The room went silent. Greta's face went pale. What are you talking about? Your real name isn't Greta Dane, Elias said. It's Leora Dane, and you're my sister. McKenna's world tilted. Sister? Greta's mask cracked, just for a second. Then she laughed, bitter, broken. You think I don't know that? You think I forgot? She stepped closer to Elias, gun still raised. I waited for you. For years. I thought you'd come back. Thought you'd fight. But you didn't. You disappeared. You left me alone. Elias's voice was soft. I didn't leave you. They took me. And I spent 20 years trying to survive without you. Greta, Leora said. Her voice cracked. I changed my name. I infiltrated the Whitlock estate. I watched them build an empire on your back. And I did nothing. Tears streamed down her face now. Real, raw. Do you know what that feels like? She whispered. To watch the people who destroyed your family live like kings while you clean their floors? McKenna's chest ached. She understood that feeling. The invisibility, the rage, the helplessness. I'm sorry, Elias said. I'm so sorry, Leora. Leora wiped her eyes, the gun lowered. Just an inch. The trust, she said. Where is it? In your name, Elias replied. Always has been. I knew if anything happened to me, you'd be the one to find it, the one to finish what I started. Leora stared at him. Why didn't you tell me? Because I needed you safe, Elias said. If they knew you had access to the patents, they would have come for you too. Leora's hand shook. So what now? You want me to forgive you? Pretend the last 20 years didn't happen? No, Elias said. I want you to choose, just like McKenna has to choose. Do we destroy them? Or do we take back what's ours the right way? Leora's jaw tightened. She looked at the hard drive, at the gun, at her brother, and then she made a decision. She turned the gun on her own men. Drop your weapons, now. They hesitated. I said drop them. Leora's voice cracked like a whip. The guns clattered to the floor. Leora cut Elias's zip ties first, then McKenna's, then Silas's, and Miles's. We're not killing anyone tonight, Leora said, but we're not letting them win either. She handed the hard drive to McKenna. This is yours. Your father built it for you. What you do with it is your choice. McKenna stared at the small black device in her hands. The weight of it felt like the world. What do I do? She whispered. Elias took her hand. You do what's right, not what's easy. McKenna looked at Silas, at the man who'd kept her father prisoner, who'd built his empire on lies. I could destroy you, she said. Silas nodded. I know. But destroying you doesn't bring back the years. My father lost. Doesn't undo the damage. Silas's voice was barely audible. No, it doesn't. McKenna turned to Leora. The trust. Can we access it? Leora nodded. It's in a secure account, untouched, worth millions. Then here's what we do, McKenna said. We expose the truth, all of it, the theft, the lies, the cover-up. But we don't destroy the company. We take it back. We rebuild it, under my father's name. Silas's face went pale. You're asking me to give up everything. No, McKenna said. I'm asking you to do what your father should have done. Make it right. Silas stared at her for a long time. Then slowly he nodded. Okay, he said. Let's make it right. Leora exhaled. Relief. exhaustion, hope. But before anyone could move, the study door burst open. Federal agents poured in, guns drawn, badges flashing. "Nobody move," one of them shouted. McKenna's heart stopped, and then a woman in a suit stepped forward. Familiar face, cold eyes, the handler. She looked at McKenna and smiled. "Good work, we'll take it from here." McKenna's blood ran cold. "What?" The handler held out her hand. "The hard drive. Now." And McKenna realized with sinking horror that she'd been played from the very beginning. McKenna's hand tightened around the hard drive. "You're not taking this." The handler's smile didn't waver. "Yes, I am." Two agents stepped forward, guns raised. Elias moved in front of McKenna. "You'll have to go through me first." The handler sighed. "Elias, always the hero. That's what got you locked up in the first place." "Who are you?" Silas demanded. The handler's eyes shifted to him. "Someone who's been cleaning up your family's mess for decades." She pulled out a badge. "Special Agent Dana Cross, Financial Crimes Division." McKenna's stomach dropped. "You were never my handler." "No," Cross said. "I was your supervisor. The real handler quit 3 months ago. I took over, and I've been steering you exactly where I needed you to go." Leora stepped forward. "Why?" Cross's expression hardened. "Because the Whitlock empire is built on more than stolen patents. It's built on money laundering, fraud, offshore accounts that fund operations you don't want to know about." She pointed at Silas. "And he's the key to all of it." Silas's face went white. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do," Cross said. "Your father kept 2 sets of books. One for the IRS, one for his real business, and when he died, he passed it all to you." Silas shook his head. "I never—" "You signed off on every transaction," Cross interrupted. "Every payment, every transfer. Whether you knew what they were for or not, you're complicit." McKenna's chest tightened. She looked at Silas, at the man who'd kept her father prisoner, who'd offered her a contract, who'd looked at her with desperation and something close to humanity. "Is it true?" she asked. Silas's voice cracked. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "Doesn't matter," Cross said. "The evidence is on that hard drive, and I'm taking it as part of an ongoing federal investigation." "No," Leora said. Her voice was steel. "That drive belongs to Elias and to McKenna, not to you." Cross's smile vanished. "This isn't a negotiation." "Then arrest us," Leora said. "Arrest all of us. But you're not walking out of here with that drive unless you do." Cross stared at her, calculating. Then she pulled out her phone and made a call. "I need backup, now." McKenna's pulse hammered. They had minutes, maybe less. Leora leaned close to McKenna and whispered, "There's another way." "What?" "The gala. Tomorrow night. Whitlock Foundation event. Cameras, donors, press everywhere." Leora's eyes burned. "We expose the truth publicly, before they can bury it." McKenna's breath caught. "How?" Leora pulled an envelope from her jacket. Inside was a glossy invitation, gold lettering, elegant font, Whitlock Foundation, Gala, Announcement of Succession, and below that, in bold letters, "Introducing McKenna Crowell as Silas Whitlock's future wife." McKenna's stomach twisted. "What is this?" Silas's face went pale. "I didn't approve this." "I did," Leora said. 3 weeks ago. I forged your signature, had the invitation sent to every major outlet, every donor, every board member." McKenna stared at her. "Why?" "Because I knew this moment would come," Leora said. "I knew you'd need a stage, a place where the truth couldn't be silenced." Her voice dropped. "And I knew you'd be brave enough to stand on it." McKenna's throat burned. She looked at the invitation, at her name printed like a promise, like a trap. "If I do this," McKenna said, "they'll destroy me. The press, the public, everyone. Maybe, Leora said, or maybe they'll listen. Maybe they'll see what we've been too afraid to show them. Cross's voice cut through the moment. Backup's 2 minutes out. Last chance to cooperate. Elias took McKenna's hand. Baby girl, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do, McKenna said. She looked at her father, at the years stolen from him, at the life he'd lost. Someone has to. She turned to Leora. What's the plan? Leora's smile was sharp. We get you to that gala. We get you in front of those cameras, and we let the world decide what justice looks like. And the hard drive? McKenna asked. We make a copy, Leora said. One stays hidden, one goes to the press, and one, she looked at Cross, goes to the feds, but on our terms, not theirs. Cross's jaw clenched. You're making a mistake. Maybe, Leora said, but it's our mistake to make. Sirens wailed outside. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. Miles stepped forward. I'll buy you time. Get them out through the service entrance. Silas looked at him. Why would you help us? Miles's voice was quiet. Because staying silent killed my sister, and I'm done being silent. Have you ever watched someone choose the harder path when the easier one was right there? That's what Miles looked like. A man finally choosing truth over comfort. Leora grabbed McKenna's arm. We need to move. Now. They ran. Down the hallway. Through the kitchen. Out the back door. A car waited. Engine running. They climbed in. Elias in the front. McKenna, Silas, and Leora in the back. The driver pulled away just as federal agents stormed the mansion. McKenna's heart pounded. She looked at the invitation still clutched in her hand. Tomorrow night. One chance. One moment to tell the truth. And then her phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. If you go to that gala, you won't leave alive. Attached was a photo. McKenna, standing outside the mansion, crosshairs over her chest. Someone was watching, right now, and they were ready to kill. The car screeched to a stop at a safe house 2 miles from the mansion. McKenna's hands still shook as she stared at the photo, the crosshairs, the threat. Someone wants you dead, Leora said, voice tight, and they're not hiding it. Silas grabbed the phone from McKenna's hand. His face went pale. This was taken 30 seconds ago. Whoever sent this is close. Elias pulled McKenna into a hug. We need to get you out of the country. Tonight. No, McKenna said. Her voice was steady now. Calm. If I run, they win. I'm going to that gala. That's suicide, Silas said. McKenna looked at him. Maybe. But staying silent killed my father's future. Staying silent killed Miles's sister. I'm done being silent. Silas stared at her. Something shifted in his expression. Not admiration, not love, but respect. Then we do this right, he said. We control the narrative. We make sure you walk out of that gala alive. How? Leora asked. Silas pulled out his phone and made a call. I need security, private, the best you have, and I need them at the Whitlock estate in 1 hour. He hung up and turned to McKenna. If you're going to that gala, you're going as my fiancé, for real this time. McKenna's stomach twisted. What? Silas reached into his jacket and pulled out a velvet box, the same one from before. He opened it. The diamond ring gleamed under the dim light. I know you hate me, Silas said. I know you have every reason to. But if you wear this ring tomorrow night, you're protected. You're family. And no one touches family. McKenna stared at the ring, at the symbol of everything she'd been fighting against. I'm not marrying you, she said. I'm not asking you to, Silas replied. I'm asking you to play the part. 1 night. Long enough to get the truth out. Then you can walk away. Forever. McKenna's chest tightened. She looked at her father, at Leora. They were both watching her, waiting. If I do this, McKenna said, I do it my way. No scripts, no lies. I say what needs to be said. Silas's jaw clenched. Even if it destroys me? Especially if it destroys you. Silas was quiet for a long moment, then he nodded. Fine. He held out the ring. But you wear this. Because the second you step into that gala without it, they'll know something's wrong. And you'll be dead before you reach the microphone. Makina's hands trembled as she took the ring. It was heavy. Cold. A cage disguised as jewelry. She slid it onto her finger. Silas exhaled. Relief. Exhaustion. Desperation. There's something else, he said. I knew you opened the safe. The night you took the hard drive. I knew. Makina's pulse spiked. What? The safe has a silent alarm, Silas explained. It pinged my phone the second you turned that key. I watched you on the cameras, watched you plug in the drive, watched you cry. Makina's breath caught. Then why didn't you stop me? Silas's voice was barely audible. Because I wanted to see if you'd do it. If you'd choose revenge or truth. He paused. And you chose truth, even when it hurt. Makina stared at him. At the man who'd kept her father locked away. Who'd offered her money for an heir. Who'd trapped her in a mansion full of lies. And now he was standing here, admitting he'd been watching. Waiting. Testing. You're a monster, Makina whispered. I know, Silas said, but I'm a monster who's going to help you survive tomorrow night. Leora stepped between them. Enough. We need a plan. The gala starts at 7. That gives us 18 hours. Elias nodded. We make copies of the hard drive. One goes to the press. One stays with Makina. And one goes to the feds, Leora finished. On our terms. And what about the threat? Makina asked. Whoever sent that photo is still out there. Silas's expression hardened. I'll handle it. How? By doing what I do best, Silas said. Control the board. Control the donors. Control the room. He looked at Makina. And tomorrow night, I'll control the story. Makina's throat burned. You can't control the truth. No, Silas said, but I can make sure it's heard. The room went quiet. Then Makina's phone buzzed again. Another message. Same unknown number. Last warning. Cancel the gala or everyone you love dies. Below it, a new photo. Elias, sitting in the safe house. Right now. Crosshairs over his head. Makina's blood ran cold. They're here. Leora spun toward the window. Get down! Glass shattered. A gunshot exploded through the room. Elias collapsed. Makina screamed. Dad! Blood pooled under him. Too much blood. Silas grabbed Makina and pulled her to the floor. Stay down. Another shot, then another. Leora crawled to Elias, her hands pressed against the wound. He's alive. But we need a hospital. Now. Silas pulled out his phone. I'm calling. No hospitals. A voice cut through the chaos. They all froze. A man stepped out of the shadows. Tall. Calm. Gun raised. Makina's stomach dropped. It was Miles, but his face was different. Cold. Empty. Miles? Makina whispered. What are you doing? Miles's voice was flat. What I was paid to do. And he pointed the gun directly at Makina's chest. Miles's finger tightened on the trigger. Makina's heart stopped. Miles, don't. I'm sorry, Miles said. His voice cracked. They have my daughter. The room went silent. Silas's eyes widened. You don't have a daughter? Yes, I do, Miles said. His hands shook, but the gun stayed raised. Her name is Emma. She's 6. And they took her 3 hours ago. Leora's face went pale. Who took her? I don't know, Miles said. They called me. Said if I didn't kill Makina tonight, they'd kill Emma. Tears streamed down his face. I can't lose her. I already lost my sister. I can't lose her too. Makina's chest ached. She understood. She understood too well. Miles, she said softly. Put the gun down. We'll find her. You can't, Miles said. They're watching. Right now. If I don't pull this trigger, she dies. Silas stood slowly, hands raised. Then shoot me instead. Miles blinked. What? Shoot me, Silas repeated. Tell them you killed the wrong target. Buy us time to find your daughter." Miles stared at him, confused, desperate. "Why would you do that?" Miles asked. Silas's voice was steady. "Because I've spent my whole life letting people disappear. I'm done." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Miles lowered the gun. He collapsed to his knees, sobbing. "I don't know what to do. I don't know how to save her." McKenna knelt beside him. "We'll figure it out, together." Leora pulled out her phone. "I know someone, ex-military, specializes in recovery operations. If Emma's alive, he'll find her." She made the call, spoke fast, hung up. "He's on it," Leora said, "but we need to move. If they know Miles didn't follow through, they'll come for all of us." Elias groaned from the floor. His eyes fluttered open. "McKenna?" McKenna crawled to him. "I'm here, Dad. We're getting you help." "No time," Elias whispered. "The gala. You have to go. Finish this. I'm not leaving you." "Yes, you are," Elias said. His hand squeezed hers weakly. "This is what I've been waiting for. 20 years. Don't waste it." McKenna's throat burned, but she nodded. Leora helped Elias to his feet. "There's a private clinic 2 miles from here. No questions asked. I'll take him." Silas looked at Miles. "Can you still do your job?" Miles wiped his eyes. "If you find my daughter, I'll do whatever you need." "Good," Silas said, "because tomorrow night we're walking into a room full of people who want us dead, and I need someone I can trust watching my back." Miles nodded. "You have it." They moved fast. Out of the safe house, into separate cars. Elias and Leora in one, McKenna, Silas, and Miles in another. The city blurred past the windows. McKenna stared at the ring on her finger, the symbol of everything she'd fought against, but also the key to everything she needed to do. "What happens tomorrow night?" McKenna asked. Silas didn't look at her. "You walk into that gala on my arm. You smile. You play the part. And when the time is right, you tell the truth. And if they try to stop me?" "They will," Silas said, "but I'll make sure you get to that microphone, no matter what it costs." McKenna studied his face, the exhaustion, the guilt, the desperation. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You could have let me die. Let all of this disappear." Silas was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke. "Because my father built an empire on lies, and I've spent my whole life defending it. But defending a lie doesn't make it true. It just makes you a liar too." McKenna's chest tightened. They arrived at a private estate on the edge of the city. Security everywhere. Cameras, guards, a fortress. Inside, stylists waited. Dresses, makeup, hair. Leora appeared with a garment bag. She unzipped it. Inside was a red gown. Elegant, powerful. The kind of dress that demanded attention. "This is for you," Leora said. McKenna stared at it. "I've never worn anything like this." "Good," Leora said, "because tomorrow night you're not a maid. You're not invisible. You're the woman who's about to change everything." She handed McKenna a small earpiece. "Wear this. I'll be in your ear the whole time. If anything goes wrong, I'll guide you out." McKenna took the earpiece. It was tiny, almost invisible. "What if I freeze?" McKenna asked. "What if I can't do it?" Leora's voice was soft. "Then you'll do what every woman who's ever been silenced has had to do. You'll find your voice anyway. Have you ever been in a moment where the easy thing was to stay quiet and the hard thing was to speak? That's the choice McKenna faced, and she knew there was no going back. The next morning, McKenna woke to sunlight and fear. Today was the gala. She dressed slowly. The red gown fit like armor. The ring on her finger felt heavier than before. Leora fastened the earpiece behind McKenna's ear. "Remember, stay calm, stay focused, and trust yourself." McKenna nodded. Miles appeared in a black suit, clean, professional, but his eyes were red. "Any word on Emma?" McKenna asked. Miles shook his head. "Not yet." Silas entered the room. He stopped when he saw McKenna. For a moment he said nothing, just stared. Then he spoke. "You look like someone they'll never forget." McKenna's throat tightened. "Good, because I'm not giving them a choice." The car arrived at 6:30. Black, sleek, bulletproof. They climbed in. The city passed in a blur. The gala venue came into view. A grand hotel, red carpet, cameras everywhere, reporters, donors, board members. McKenna's pulse hammered. Silas took her hand. "Ready?" "No," McKenna said, "but I'm doing it anyway." The car stopped. The door opened, and McKenna stepped out into the light. Cameras flashed. Voices shouted. Questions flew. But McKenna didn't hear them. She only heard Leora's voice in her ear. "You've got this. Walk tall." McKenna took a breath and walked forward. But as she reached the entrance, a man in a suit stepped in front of her. He smiled, cold, familiar. Ronan Keats, Silas's oldest board member. "Welcome, Miss Crowell," he said. "We've been expecting you." And behind him, 10 armed men blocked the doors. Ronan's smile didn't move, but his eyes did. They swept over McKenna like she was a specimen under glass. "Miss Crowell," he said again. "Or should I say, Miss Whitlock?" He glanced at the ring on her finger. "Congratulations on the engagement." Silas stepped forward. "Move aside, Ronan." "In a moment," Ronan said. He leaned closer to McKenna. "You have your father's eyes, Elias's eyes." McKenna's blood went cold. Silas's face hardened. "What did you just say?" Ronan's smile widened. "Oh, come now, Silas. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize her? I worked with Elias for 3 years before your father made him disappear." He turned back to McKenna. "You were just a little girl then. But I remember. I remember everything." McKenna forced her voice steady. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do," Ronan said. "And so does everyone inside that ballroom. They're waiting for you. Waiting to see if Silas's mystery fiancé is brave enough to walk through those doors." Leora's voice crackled in McKenna's ear. "Don't engage. Walk past him." But McKenna couldn't move. Ronan's words hung in the air like smoke. Silas grabbed McKenna's arm gently. "Let's go." Ronan stepped aside. "Enjoy the party, while it lasts." They pushed through the doors. The ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers, gold trim, tables covered in white linen and champagne glasses, donors in tuxedos and gowns, cameras positioned at every angle. McKenna's pulse hammered. Every eye in the room turned toward her. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Who is she? Where did she come from? Is that really Silas Whitlock's fiancé? Silas guided her toward the center of the room. His hand stayed on her back. Steady. Possessive. "Smile," he whispered. "You're supposed to look happy." McKenna forced her lips into a curve, but her stomach was twisted so tight she thought she'd break. A woman in a silver gown approached. Board member. McKenna recognized her from photos. Cassandra Vale. Sharp. Ruthless. "Silas," Cassandra said, eyes locked on McKenna. "You didn't tell us you were engaged." "It was sudden," Silas replied smoothly. Cassandra's smile was ice. Clearly, she extended a hand to McKenna. "Cassandra Vale, I've been on the Whitlock board for 15 years, and I've never heard of you." McKenna shook her hand. "McKenna Crowell." Cassandra's grip tightened. "Crowell. Interesting name." She paused. "Any relation to Elias Crowell?" The room seemed to tilt. McKenna's throat went dry. "I don't know who that is." Cassandra's smile didn't waver. "Of course you don't." She leaned in close. "But if you did, you'd know he was the man Silas's father destroyed, and you'd know that anyone connected to him doesn't belong here." She walked away. Leora's voice was urgent in McKenna's ear. "She knows. They all know. You need to move fast." Silas's jaw clenched. "We need to get you to the stage. Now." But before they could move, Ronan appeared on the stage, microphone in hand, smile wide. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "welcome to the Whitlock Foundation Gala. Tonight is a historic night, a night of new beginnings, a night of succession." Applause filled the room. Ronan's eyes found Makina. "And tonight, we have the pleasure of introducing Silas Whitlock's future wife, Makina Crowell." More applause, but it felt hollow, forced. Makina's hands shook. Silas squeezed her arm. "Stay with me," Ronan continued. "But before we hear from the happy couple, I think it's important we all understand who Makina really is." Makina's stomach dropped. Ronan gestured to a screen behind him. It flickered to life. A photo appeared. Young Elias, standing beside a workbench, tools spread out, patent forms on the table. "This man," Ronan said, "was Elias Crowell, a brilliant inventor, a trusted partner, until he tried to steal from the Whitlock family." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ronan's voice hardened. Elias claimed ownership of technology that rightfully belonged to Jonathan Whitlock. He threatened lawsuits, he threatened exposure. So Jonathan did what he had to do. He removed the threat. Another photo appeared. Elias being escorted out of a courtroom, head down, defeated. Makina's chest burned. She wanted to scream, to run, to fight, but she forced herself to stay still. Ronan's smile was sharp. And now, 20 years later, Elias's daughter walks into this ballroom wearing an engagement ring, pretending to be something she's not. He turned to Makina. "Tell me, Miss Crowell, are you here for love or revenge?" The room went silent. Every camera turned toward Makina. Silas stepped forward. "That's enough, Ronan." "Is it?" Ronan asked. "Or is it time we stopped pretending? Time we stopped letting people like her infiltrate our world?" McKenna's pulse pounded. Leora's voice was calm in her ear. "This is your moment. Take it." McKenna stepped forward, away from Silas, toward the stage. "You're right," she said. Her voice echoed through the ballroom. "I'm Elias Crowell's daughter." Gasps, whispers, cameras flashing. McKenna climbed the stairs to the stage. Ronan stepped back, surprised. She took the microphone from his hand. "My father didn't steal anything," McKenna said. "He built the technology that made this empire possible. And Jonathan Whitlock didn't just remove the threat. He locked my father in a facility for 20 years. No trial, no charges, just disappeared." The room erupted, voices overlapping, donors standing, board members whispering. Silas's face was unreadable. He watched Makina like he was seeing her for the first time. Makina's voice grew stronger. "I came here to find the truth, and tonight I'm going to show you proof." She pulled the hard drive from her clutch and held it up. "Everything is on here. The contracts, the payments, the cover-up, all of it." Ronan's face went white. "Security, remove her, now." Armed guards moved toward the stage, but Silas stepped in front of them. Let her speak." Ronan's voice was sharp. "Silas, what are you doing?" "What I should have done years ago," Silas said. He turned to Makina. "Show them." Makina plugged the hard drive into the stage computer. The screen behind her lit up. Files, documents, videos. And then Elias's face appeared. Live. From the private clinic. Weak, but alive. "My name is Elias Crowell," he said, "and I'm here to tell you the truth." The ballroom exploded into chaos, and in the back of the room, a man in a dark suit pulled out a gun and aimed it at the stage. At Makina. The gunshot never came. Miles tackled the shooter from behind. They crashed into a table. Glass shattered. Screams filled the ballroom. Security rushed in. Guests scattered. Cameras kept rolling. Makina stood frozen on stage, heart hammering, as chaos erupted around her. Silas grabbed her arm and pulled her behind the curtain. His face was furious. "What the hell are you doing?" Telling the truth, Makina said. You're getting yourself killed. Silas's hand moved to her face. His fingers brushed her ear. He froze. What is this? He pulled the earpiece out. Makina's stomach dropped. Silas stared at the tiny device, then at Makina. You're being coached. Someone's in your ear. Who? It doesn't matter, Makina said. It matters to me. Silas crushed the earpiece in his fist. I trusted you. I protected you. And you're working with someone else? I'm working for my father, Makina shot back. Not you. Not anyone else. Silas's jaw clenched. He looked like a man standing on the edge of a cliff. You're going to destroy everything. Good, Makina said, because everything you have was built on lies. Silas opened his mouth to respond, but another gunshot rang out. They both froze. Then Miles's voice shouted from the ballroom. Makina, we need to go, now! Silas and Makina rushed back to the main floor. Miles was crouched behind the media table, laptop open, cables everywhere. Blood ran down his arm, but he kept typing. What are you doing? Silas demanded. Uploading, Miles said through gritted teeth. Everything. To every news outlet, every server, every platform. Ronan appeared across the room. Gun raised, pointed at Miles. Stop, Ronan ordered, or I'll put a bullet in your head. Miles didn't stop typing. Then do it. Because this is already done. Ronan's face twisted. He cocked the gun. Silas moved fast. He stepped between Ronan and Miles. Lower the weapon. Move aside, Silas, Ronan said. This doesn't concern you. Everything in this room concerns me, Silas replied. His voice was cold, commanding. You're pointing a gun at my head of security. At a gala full of cameras. Do you understand what that means? Ronan's hand shook. You're protecting them, after everything they've done, after everything they're about to destroy. I'm protecting the truth, Silas said, even if it destroys me. For a moment, no one moved. Then Ronan shifted his aim, away from Miles, toward Makina. Tell me where the kill switch is, Ronan demanded, or I'll kill him. He pointed the gun at Miles again. Makina's chest tightened. I don't have a kill switch. You're lying, Ronan said. Elias said it on that video. Said it's tied to your DNA, biometric lock, which means you can activate it. Makina's hands trembled. Even if I could, I wouldn't. Not like this. Ronan's finger moved to the trigger. Then Miles dies. Miles looked at Makina. His eyes were calm, resigned. Don't do it, Makina. Whatever he wants, don't give it to him. Ronan's voice turned ice. 3 seconds. Tell me how to activate it, or he dies. 1. Makina's pulse hammered. She looked at Miles, at the man who'd betrayed her, then saved her, then stood by her. 2. She looked at Silas, at the man who'd trapped her, then freed her, then stood between her and a bullet. 3. Wait, Makina shouted. I'll do it. Just don't shoot him. Ronan smiled. Smart girl. Silas's face went pale. Makina, don't. I have to, Makina said. She pulled out her phone, hands shaking. The system requires a DNA scan and a voice command. I can activate it from here. Ronan lowered the gun slightly. Do it, now. Makina's thumb hovered over the screen. She looked at the ballroom, at the cameras, at the donors watching in horror, at the board members who'd spent decades protecting lies. And she thought about her father, about the years stolen from him, about the life he'd lost. If I do this, Makina said, everything crashes, every system, every account, billions disappear. I don't care, Ronan said. Just do it. Makina's throat burned. She pressed her thumb to the screen. The phone scanned her fingerprint. Then it asked for a voice command. Speak the activation phrase. Makina's voice was barely a whisper. Legacy override. Elias Crowell. Authorization alpha. The phone beeped. Biometric match confirmed. Activation sequence initiated. Ronan's eyes gleamed. It's done. No, McKenna said. She turned the phone toward him. It's not. On the screen, a timer appeared. 60 seconds until full system shutdown. Enter override code to cancel. Ronan's face went white. What override code? McKenna's smile was sharp. The one my father never told anyone. The one that only he knows. Ronan grabbed McKenna by the throat. Tell me the code. I don't know it, McKenna choked out. Then call him, Ronan screamed. Call Elias and get it. McKenna's vision blurred. She couldn't breathe. Silas moved. Fast. He grabbed Ronan's wrist and twisted. The gun fell. Ronan released McKenna. She collapsed, gasping. The timer kept counting down. 45 seconds. Miles grabbed McKenna's phone. We need to stop this. If the system crashes, it'll take down more than Whitlock Holdings. It'll take down hospitals, banks, infrastructure. McKenna's chest heaved. Then call my father. He's the only one who can stop it. Miles dialed. The call connected. Elias's face appeared on screen, weak, pale, but alive. Dad, McKenna gasped. We need the override code. Now. Elias's eyes filled with tears. There is no override code, baby girl. McKenna's blood went cold. What? I lied, Elias said. His voice cracked. There's no kill switch, there never was. I just needed them to believe there was. The room went silent. 30 seconds. Ronan's face twisted. You're bluffing. No, Elias said. I'm teaching you a lesson. Power built on fear is just an illusion, and illusions shatter. The timer hit 0. The screen went black. The lights in the ballroom flickered, then died, and in the darkness, McKenna heard Ronan's voice. Calm, cold, final. If I can't have the Empire, no one can. A single gunshot rang out. Someone screamed. And when the emergency lights came on, Silas was on the floor, blood pooling under him. McKenna's world shattered. McKenna screamed and dropped to her knees beside Silas. Blood soaked through his white shirt. Too much blood. His eyes fluttered, struggling to stay open. Silas, McKenna whispered, pressing her hands against the wound. Stay with me. His lips moved. Barely. Finish it. I can't leave you. Finish it, he repeated, stronger this time. His hand found hers, squeezed weakly. Or everything we did means nothing. Tears blurred McKenna's vision. Miles grabbed her shoulder. McKenna. He's right. We have minutes before they shut this down completely. Security was already moving through the ballroom. Ronan had disappeared into the chaos. Guests were fleeing. Cameras were being pulled. McKenna looked at Silas one last time. Don't die. He tried to smile. No promises. McKenna stood. Her hands were shaking, covered in blood, but she walked toward the stage anyway. Miles followed. I'll get the backup files ready. You just need to buy me 30 seconds. McKenna climbed the stage steps. Her red dress felt heavier now, the weight of everything pressing down on her. The microphone stood in the center. Abandoned. Waiting. She picked it up. Her voice echoed through the ballroom. Stop. A few people froze. Most kept running. I said stop. McKenna's voice cracked like thunder. This time, everyone stopped. The emergency lights cast harsh shadows. The ballroom looked like a battlefield, but every camera that was still running turned toward McKenna. You want to leave? McKenna said. Fine. Walk out those doors. Pretend you didn't see anything. Pretend this didn't happen. Her voice broke. But if you stay, you'll see the truth. The truth that's been buried for 20 years. Silence. Heavy. Waiting. A few donors sat back down. Then more. Then most of the room. Miles worked fast at the media table. Cables, hard drives, screens lighting up. McKenna's throat burned. My name is McKenna Crowell. My father is Elias Crowell. And for 20 years, you've been told he was a thief. A liar. a man who tried to steal from the Whitlock family. She paused. Let the words sink in. But that's not what happened. The giant screen behind her flickered to life. Elias appeared, not the weak man from the clinic. This was a recording. From years ago, before he'd been locked away. Elias sat at a workbench, tools spread out, blueprints everywhere. His voice was strong, hopeful. "This is my life's work," Video Elias said. "A power regulation system that could change everything. Make energy accessible, affordable, safe." He held up a prototype. Small, simple, beautiful. "I partnered with Jonathan Whitlock because I believed we shared the same vision. Progress, innovation, a better future." The video cut to a contract signing, Elias shaking Jonathan's hand, smiling, trusting. "But I was wrong," Video Elias continued, his expression darkened. Jonathan didn't want a partner. He wanted ownership, full control. So he found a loophole in our contract, a clause that said if I couldn't prove sole invention, the rights defaulted to him. The screen showed documents, payments to witnesses, forged signatures, legal maneuvers. He paid off the co-inventor listed on my early prototype, a man I'd worked with once, years before, someone I barely knew. Jonathan bought his silence. Then he took everything. McKenna's chest ached, watching her father's face, hearing the pain in his voice. "I tried to fight," Elias said. "I hired lawyers. I went to the press, but Jonathan had more money, more power, more influence." The video showed courtroom footage. Elias being escorted out, head down, defeated. And when I wouldn't stop talking, he made me disappear. The screen showed transfer documents, medical commitments, a private facility with no name. He told the courts I was unstable, dangerous to myself and others. He forged psychiatric evaluations, paid doctors to testify against me. Elias's voice cracked. And just like that, I became a ghost. The ballroom was silent. You could hear breathing, heartbeats. McKenna's voice was steady now, strong. My father spent 20 years in that facility. No trial, no appeal, no visitors, because Jonathan Whitlock decided he was a threat. She looked directly at the cameras, at the people watching, at the world beyond the ballroom. How many of you have stayed silent when you knew something was wrong? How many of you walked away because speaking up felt too dangerous, too risky? The question hung in the air like smoke. "I almost did," McKenna said. "I almost stayed quiet, took the money, played the part, because that's what people like me are supposed to do. We're supposed to survive, not fight." Her voice grew stronger. "But my father didn't raise a survivor. He raised a fighter." The screen behind her changed. More documents, more evidence, bank records, offshore accounts, payments to judges, to politicians, to anyone who could keep the lie alive. Whitlock Holdings wasn't just built on stolen technology, McKenna said. It was built on silence, on fear, on people like me being too afraid to speak. She held up the hard drive. "This contains everything, every contract, every payment, every lie, and as of 2 minutes ago, it's been uploaded to every major news outlet in the country." Gasps filled the room. "You can't bury this," McKenna said. "You can't silence it. It's already out. There." The doors at the back of the ballroom burst open. Federal agents poured in, badges flashing, guns drawn. Agent Dana Cross led them. She walked straight to the stage, looked at McKenna. "You're under arrest," Cross said, "for unauthorized access to federal evidence." McKenna's stomach dropped. "What?" "That hard drive was part of an ongoing investigation," Cross said. "By releasing it, you've compromised a multi-year operation." Miles stood from the media table. "She was doing your job. You had the evidence and did nothing." Cross's eyes were cold. We were building a case, a legal case. Now it's contaminated. She gestured to her agents. Take her. 2 agents moved toward McKenna, but before they could reach her, a voice rang out from the back of the room. Stop! Everyone turned. Elias Crowell stood in the doorway, alive, walking, supported by Leora, but standing. The room erupted. Cameras flashed. Voices overlapped. Elias walked slowly toward the stage. Every step looked painful, but he didn't stop. He climbed the stairs, stood beside McKenna, and he took the microphone from her hands. My name is Elias Crowell, he said. His voice echoed through the ballroom, through the cameras, through history. And I'm here to tell you that everything my daughter said is true. The room went silent, and in that silence, Ronan Keats appeared at the back of the ballroom, gun raised, pointed at Elias. Then you can both die together, Ronan said, and he pulled the trigger. Miles threw himself in front of Elias. The bullet hit him in the shoulder. He spun, fell. Blood sprayed across the stage, but Elias was untouched. Federal agents swarmed Ronan, guns drawn, shouting. He tried to run, but they tackled him to the ground. The gun clattered across the marble floor. McKenna dropped beside Miles. Stay with me, please. Miles's face was pale, sweating, but he smiled. Did we get it all out? Yes, McKenna said, tears streaming. It's everywhere, every channel, every platform. Miles's eyes fluttered. Good, then it was worth it. Paramedics rushed in. They lifted Miles onto a stretcher. McKenna held his hand until they pulled him away. Agent Cross approached the stage. Her face was unreadable. Elias Crowell? Elias straightened, weak but defiant. That's me. You're free to go, Cross said. All charges from the original commitment have been vacated. Federal investigation confirmed wrongful imprisonment. Elias's knees buckled. Leora caught him. It's over, she whispered. You're free. Elias's voice cracked. 20 years. They took 20 years. Cross's expression softened, just slightly. I know. And there will be reparations. Investigations into everyone involved. She looked at Ronan being dragged out in handcuffs. Starting with him. Ronan's voice echoed through the ballroom. You're all fools. Whitlock Holdings will collapse without me. The board will tear itself apart. Let it, McKenna said. Her voice was steel. Better to collapse than stand on lies. Cross turned to McKenna. You're not under arrest, but you will need to testify. Multiple agencies are building cases now. McKenna nodded. I'll testify, as many times as you need. Cross walked away. Her agents followed. Ronan was gone. The ballroom was emptying, but Silas was still on the floor. Paramedics worked over him, trying to stop the bleeding. McKenna ran to him, dropped to her knees. Silas, stay awake. His eyes opened, barely. Did you finish it? Yes, McKenna said. It's done. Silas's hand reached up, touched her face. His fingers were cold, trembling. Good. You're stronger than me. Don't talk like that, McKenna said. You're going to be fine. No, Silas whispered. I'm not. His eyes filled with tears. I spent my whole life defending my father's empire, and it was all built on theft, on lies, on people like your dad. His voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. McKenna's throat burned. Then, live. Live and help me fix it. Silas tried to smile, but his eyes were closing. Tell my father. Tell him I couldn't do it. Couldn't keep the lie alive. Silas. His hand dropped. His breathing slowed. The paramedics worked faster, shouting, moving, but McKenna could see it in their faces. They were losing him, and then Silas's eyes opened one last time. He looked past McKenna, at something no one else could see. Dad, he whispered, like a child, like someone who'd been lost for years. I'm sorry, I tried. I really tried. His eyes closed. The paramedics kept working, but the monitor flatlined. McKenna's chest shattered. She didn't know Silas well, didn't love him, didn't even fully trust him, but he'd stood between her and a bullet. He'd let her speak when he could have silenced her. He'd chosen truth over empire, and now he was gone. Have you ever watched someone pay the price for a lie they didn't create? That's what Silas was. A man buried under his father's sins, and silence killed him long before the bullet did. Elias limped over, sat beside McKenna. "I'm sorry, baby girl." McKenna wiped her eyes. "He didn't deserve this." "No one does," Elias said, "but that's what happens when people stay silent. When they let lies grow so big they crush everything." McKenna looked at her father, at the man who'd lost 20 years, who'd been erased, forgotten. "I won't stay silent," McKenna said. "Not anymore. Not ever." Elias pulled her into a hug. "I know. You never were good at that anyway." Leora approached. Her face was wet. "The press is outside. Hundreds of them. They want a statement." McKenna stood. Her legs shook, but she stayed upright. "Then let's give them one." They walked out of the ballroom together. Father, daughter, aunt, survivors. The press swarmed them. Cameras flashed, microphones shoved forward, questions flying from every direction. McKenna stepped to the front, raised her hand. The crowd quieted. "My name is McKenna Crowell," she said, "and tonight the truth came out. But truth without action is just noise." She looked directly into the cameras. "Whitlock Holdings will be dismantled. The board will be investigated. Every account, every deal, every lie will be exposed." Someone shouted, "What happens to the company?" "It gets rebuilt," McKenna said. "Under my father's name. Under the people who actually created it." Another voice. "What about Silas Whitlock?" McKenna's throat tightened. Silas Whitlock died tonight. Not because he was evil, but because he inherited a lie so big it swallowed him whole. She paused. "Let the weight of it settle. If you're watching this and you've stayed silent about something wrong, think about him. Think about what silence costs. Not just you. Everyone." The cameras kept rolling. Elias stepped beside her, took her hand, and for the first time in 20 years, he smiled. But as they turned to leave, McKenna's phone buzzed. One message, unknown number, "Congratulations. You exposed the lie, but you missed the bigger one." Attached was a photo, a man in a hospital bed, machines, tubes, unconscious. The face was unmistakable. Silas Whitlock, alive, and below the photo, one sentence, "He's not dead, and neither is his father." McKenna's world tilted. Because if Silas wasn't dead, then who did they just bury? And if Jonathan Whitlock was alive, then the empire wasn't finished. It was just beginning. McKenna stared at the photo. Her hands shook so hard she almost dropped the phone. "What is it?" Elias asked. McKenna turned the screen toward him. His face went white. "That's impossible," he whispered. "I watched him collapse. I saw the blood." "So did I," McKenna said. Her mind raced. "But if he's alive, then everything we just did means nothing," Leora finished. Her voice was hollow. "If Jonathan Whitlock is still alive, he still controls the empire, the board, the money, everything." McKenna's chest tightened. "We exposed the truth. The whole world saw it." "Truth doesn't matter if the person holding the power is still standing," Leora said. She looked exhausted, defeated. "Jonathan built that empire on lies. One night of exposure won't destroy decades of control." McKenna wanted to scream, to throw the phone, to rage against the injustice of it all, but instead, she did what she'd learned to do. She stayed calm, and she planned. "Where's the hospital?" McKenna asked. "Private facility," Leora said, 20 miles outside the city. The same one your father was in." McKenna's stomach twisted. "Take me there. Now." They drove in silence. The city lights blurred past. News alerts flooded McKenna's phone. Headlines everywhere. Whitlock Empire exposed. Elias Crowell alive after 20 years. Silas Whitlock dead in gala shooting. But one headline made McKenna's blood run cold. Jonathan Whitlock's body never recovered after death in 2019. She clicked the article, scanned it fast. Jonathan Whitlock had reportedly died 6 years ago. Heart attack, private funeral, no body viewing. Cremation within hours. But there were no photos, no witnesses. Just a death certificate signed by a doctor who disappeared 2 months later. "He faked his death," McKenna whispered. Elias leaned forward from the back seat. "What?" "Jonathan. He faked his death 6 years ago. Let Silas take over publicly while he controlled everything from the shadows." Leora's hands tightened on the steering wheel. That's how he stayed hidden. Let his son take the fall while he pulled the strings. McKenna's throat burned. And Silas never knew. They arrived at the facility. Sterile. Cold. Guards at every entrance. Leora flashed a badge. Forged. But it worked. They were waved through. Inside, the hallway smelled like antiseptic and secrets. Doors locked. Cameras everywhere. A nurse led them to a private wing. She stopped in front of a door marked Restricted. "He's in there," the nurse said. "But you only have 10 minutes. McKenna pushed the door open. Silas lay in the hospital bed. Pale, thin, machines beeping, tubes running from his arms, but breathing, alive. McKenna's knees went weak. Silas, his eyes opened slowly, focused on her. McKenna. His voice was hoarse, broken, but real. McKenna walked to his bedside. "They said you were dead." "I should be," Silas whispered. "The bullet missed my heart by an inch." He paused. Or maybe it was aimed to miss. McKenna's pulse spiked. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Ronan wasn't trying to kill me," Silas said. "He was trying to make it look like I died, so my father could stay hidden." The room tilted. "Your father is alive," McKenna said. Not a question. A statement. Silas nodded. "He's been alive this whole time, watching, controlling, using me as a puppet." Tears filled his eyes. "I thought I was running the company, thought I was making decisions, but every move I made, every deal I signed, it was him, always him." McKenna's chest ached. "Why tell me this now?" Silas's hand reached for hers, weak, trembling. "Because you're the only person who can stop him." "How?" "The trust," Silas said. "The one your father set up. It's still active, still holds the original patents. If you activate it, you can reclaim ownership, not just of the technology, of the entire company." McKenna's breath caught. "I don't want the company." "Then dismantle it," Silas said. "Burn it to the ground. Just don't let him keep it." His voice cracked. "Please, don't let him win." McKenna stared at him, at the man who'd trapped her, who'd tested her, who'd finally chosen truth. "Where is he?" McKenna asked. Silas's eyes filled with something close to fear. "He'll find you. He always does." Before McKenna could respond, her phone buzzed. A new message. Same unknown number. "Meet me. Alone. Tomorrow. Noon. The old Whitlock estate. Come alone or your father dies." J.W. McKenna's blood went cold. She showed Silas the message. His face went pale. "Don't go. He'll kill you." "He'll kill my father if I don't." "Then let me come with you," Silas said, trying to sit up. He winced, collapsed back. "I can't." "Let you face him alone." McKenna's voice was steady. "You can barely move. And if you show up, he'll know you're alive. That gives me leverage." Silas stared at her. "You're not afraid." "I'm terrified," McKenna said. "But I'm done running." She turned to leave. "McKenna," Silas called. She stopped. "If he offers you a deal," Silas said, "don't take it. My father doesn't make deals. He makes traps." McKenna nodded once, then walked out. In the hallway, Elias waited. What did he say? Jonathan wants to meet, Makina said. Tomorrow, alone. Elias's face went hard. Absolutely not. I have to. Then I'm coming with you. No. Makina's voice was firm. If you come, he'll use you against me. I need you safe. Elias opened his mouth to argue, but Leora touched his arm. She's right. This is her fight now. Elias's eyes filled with tears. I just got you back. I can't lose you again. Makina hugged him. Tight. You won't. I promise. They drove back to the safe house. Makina didn't sleep. She sat by the window staring at the city lights, thinking about tomorrow. About Jonathan Whitlock. About the man who'd stolen her father's life. Who'd controlled an empire from the shadows. About the choice she'd have to make. At 11 a.m., Makina got dressed. Simple clothes, no jewelry, no ring, just herself. Elias hugged her at the door. Come back to me. I will, Makina said. She drove alone. The old Whitlock estate sat on the edge of the city. Abandoned, crumbling, a monument to old power. Makina parked and walked to the front door. It was already open. She stepped inside. The house was dark. Dust everywhere, furniture covered in sheets, and in the center of the room, sitting in a chair like a king, was Jonathan Whitlock. Older, gray, but alive. He smiled. Hello, Makina. I've been waiting for you. Makina's hands curled into fists. Let's finish this. Jonathan's smile widened. Oh, we're just getting started. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. We have so much to discuss. Makina sat. Her heart pounded, but her voice was calm. You wanted to meet. I'm here. Now what? Jonathan leaned forward, eyes sharp, calculating. Now, I offer you a choice. The same choice I offered your father 20 years ago. And what's that? Jonathan pulled out a contract, set it on the table between them. Join me, he said, or lose everything. Makina stared at the contract, at the man who'd destroyed her father, who'd built an empire on theft and lies, and she realized with cold clarity that some battles never end. They just change shape. What's it going to be, Makina? Jonathan asked. Will you be smart like your father should have been? Or will you make his mistake? Makina's hand moved toward the contract, and the door behind her slammed shut. Locked. Jonathan's smile turned cold. I wasn't really giving you a choice. The end, or is it?